Let's get started by learning how to set up, thread, and wind a bobbin on your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine. Are you ready? Setting up your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine is easy. Most Husqvarna Viking machines are very similar to set up, whether it's threading or winding a bobbin. The Designer Epic 2, the Designer Epic, and Epic 980Q do have a slightly different threading path using a telescoping thread guide. The path for winding a bobbin is also different. Use the Threading Your Designer Epic 2, Epic, and Epic 980Q video to learn the specifics. There are slight variations in some other Husqvarna Viking machines. Use the specific machine manual to help with the variations in threading. Follow along with your machine while we set up and thread. Begin your setup by opening the box and taking the power cord, foot control, accessories, and manual out of the box. Set those to the side of your work area. Take your Husqvarna Viking machine out of the box. Make sure to place it on a hard, flat, stable surface. You don't want your machine to vibrate or wobble while you sew. Depending upon your Husqvarna Viking machine, you may have to plug the foot control cord into the main part of the foot control. Take out the foot control cord, turn the foot control over, and then connect the cord to the socket inside the space of the foot control. Push firmly to make sure it's properly connected, and then lay the cord in the slot on the underside of the foot control. Located on the right side of your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine toward the bottom is the on-off switch, foot control socket, and power cord socket. Connect the foot control cord to the front socket on the bottom right side of your machine. Then connect the power cord to the rear socket on the bottom right side of the machine. It is good to use a surge protector with your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine. A surge protector is not required, but it is a good protection for power spikes. Plug the surge protector into the wall outlet and then plug the power plug into the surge protector. Press the on-off switch to I to turn on power and light for your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine. Good quality thread is important for sewing and embroidery. There are many threads on the market today developed for different purposes. All-purpose sewing thread is used for sewing garments and projects. Embroidery thread creates a smooth, glossy appearance for embroidery and other decorative stitching. There are other specialty threads for quilting and decorative sewing. No matter what sewing project, thread is a key to success. There are different spool pins on your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine. Horizontal thread delivery is the preferred method for most regular sewing thread and embroidery thread. Place a large spool cap flat side facing out on the spool pin. Then slide your thread spool on the pin. Ensure the thread is coming off counterclockwise. Place a spool cap slightly larger than the spool on the spool pin. The flat side of the spool cap should be pressed firmly against the spool. Not all thread spools are manufactured in the same way. If you experience problems with the thread, turn it the opposite way or use a vertical spool pin. Vertical thread delivery is used for specialty threads. Lift the horizontal spool pin up until it locks in place, or use the auxiliary spool pin. Ensure a large spool cap is on the spool pin. Then place a felt pad under the thread spool to prevent the spool from spinning and reeling off too quickly. Do not place a spool cap above the thread spool when using the vertical spool pin. It will prevent the spool from rotating. You can either wind a bobbin through the needle, which we'll do a little bit later, or you can wind a bobbin on the top of your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine. Place an empty bobbin on the bobbin spindle at the top right of the machine. The bobbin only fits one way, with the Husqvarna Viking logo facing up. You should only use original Husqvarna Viking bobbins. You can either use the horizontal or vertical spool delivery system. You should use the vertical delivery system for stretchy, metallic, or other specialty threads. When winding specialty threads on the bobbin, you should wind at a slower speed. We will show that winding option here. Place the large spool cap and a felt pad under the spool on the main spool pin set in the vertical position. Bring the thread over the pre-tension thread guide, and then down around the thread tension disc, and then through the thread guide as illustrated. Guide the thread through the hole in the bobbin from the inside to the outside, or wind several turns of thread on the bobbin to get it started. Push the bobbin winder spindle to the right to wind. Depending upon your Husqvarna Viking machine, a pop-up may appear on the screen to inform you that bobbin winding is active. If you have that option, adjust the winding speed with the slider in the pop-up. Start bobbin winding by pressing the foot control or touch the start-stop button. When the bobbin is full, it will stop winding. Release the foot control or touch the start-stop button to stop the bobbin winder motor from running. Move the bobbin winder spindle to the left and the pop-up will close. Remove the bobbin and cut the thread using the bobbin thread cutter. To place the bobbin in the bobbin case, remove the bobbin cover by sliding it towards you. Place the bobbin into the bobbin case. The bobbin can only drop in one way, with the logo facing up. The thread unreels from the left of the bobbin, and the bobbin will rotate counterclockwise when you pull the thread. Place your finger on the bobbin to keep it from turning as you pull the thread firmly to the right and then to the left into the tension spring until it clicks into place. Continue threading, following the arrows around and then to the right of the thread cutter. Slide on the bobbin cover and pull the thread to the left to cut. Don't worry about pulling up your bobbin thread. Your Husqvarna Viking will automatically pick up the bobbin thread when you start sewing. The first thing you need to do when threading the upper thread is to make sure that the presser foot is raised and the needle is in the up position. Depending upon your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine, raise your presser foot by either touching the presser foot up extra lift button on the front of your machine or use the presser foot lifter on the back of your machine. Ensure the needle is in the highest position by either touching the needle up-down button twice or turning the hand wheel until the needle is in the correct position. When threading your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine, the spool pin position makes a difference. If the spool pin is in the horizontal position, bring the thread over and behind the pre-tension guide and then under the thread guide. If the spool pin is in the vertical position, skip the pre-tension guide and bring it directly under the thread guide. Now bring the thread down between the thread tension discs and continue threading down the front of your Husqvarna Viking in the direction indicated by the arrows. Bring the thread back up the front of your machine and place the thread from right to left into the slot on the take-up lever. Now take the thread back down the front of your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine and behind the last guide just above the needle.
Bravo!
The needle threader allows you to thread the needle automatically. The needle must be in the up position to use the built-in needle threader. If your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine has a needle up-down button, press it once to put the needle down and then again to bring the needle up. This will place your needle in the proper position for using the needle threader. Otherwise, turn the hand wheel to make sure the needle is in the up position. We also recommend lowering the presser foot by either pressing the presser foot down pivot button or using the presser foot lifter on the back of your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine. To use the needle threader, first use the handle to pull the needle threader all the way down. The threader hook will swivel through the needle eye. Place the thread under the large hook and then under the thread hook in the needle. Pull the thread towards you to ensure the thread is under the thread hook. Let the needle threader gently swing back while at the same time releasing the thread end from your hand. The hook pulls the thread through the needle eye and forms a loop behind the needle. Pull the thread loop out behind the needle. The needle threader is designed to be used for size 70 to 120 needles. You cannot use the needle threader for needles size 60 or smaller, the wing needle, twin needle, triple needle, or when the sensor one-step buttonhole foot is attached. There are also some optional accessories that require manual threading of the needle. When threading the needle manually, make sure that the needle is threaded from front to back. Many Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machines can wind a bobbin with the machine fully threaded. To do this, make sure that the presser foot and the needle are in the up position. Place an empty bobbin on the bobbin spindle on the top of the machine, just as you would if you're winding a bobbin any other way. The bobbin only fits on one way, with the logo facing up. Remember, use only original Husqvarna Viking bobbins. Thread your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine with the main spool pin in the horizontal position. If the thread spool is too large to be in the horizontal position, wind the bobbin as we talked about for specialty threads. With the machine fully threaded, bring the thread up from the needle, under the presser foot, and up to the right through the thread guides. Use only a metal presser foot when winding a bobbin from the needle. Also notice how the thread follows over the metal protection pieces on the front of your Husqvarna Viking sewing or embroidery machine. Finish winding your bobbin as shown previously in this lesson.